One of my favorite arcade games growing up was House of the Dead 2. I don't know what it was about that game, but I played it first in the arcades, then I played it when Dreamcast was a big thing, and that was a game that every single time I went to any sort of commercial arcade like Palladium or something, I was anticipating playing that game again. And for me, that was one of those games that I really wish Arcade 1UP would have brought to their lineup of machines. And hey, with Time Crisis coming out and stuff like that, maybe that's on the horizon. But in the meantime, I decided to take matters into my own hands, and I converted an old Street Fighter 2 cabinet that I had that unfortunately completely died. And I changed some things over, and for basically next to no money, I made a House of the Dead cabinet of my own. So let's take a look at what that looks like and how I put it together. So what I got going on here is this was originally a Street Fighter 2 cabinet. As you can tell, the side panels, I actually just used a standard white matte finish that I had in my basement. It took me a couple coats to put on. Now, as for the light guns or the gun holsters, I actually had these originally for a different setup for House of the Dead 2 in my house. I just drilled these into the side panels on both sides, and that gave me a slot to hold my guns, and I think it looks half decent considering. The hardest part to me actually was trying to make this look half decent, and what I mean by that is I had to basically try to put some painter's tape around, paint this, and I actually had a Sega sticker that I had custom made put together. This was a while ago though, for again a different House of the Dead setup, and I've just put that in the center here to kind of give it a bit of a Sega aesthetic. Now, as far as the marquee, all this was I had a House of the Dead 3 game or a magazine. It was like an Xbox magazine, and I just cut it to fit out of the magazine here, and I put it together basically strategically so it looks like it was meant to be this display. And anyways, I used just like a standard clear Elmer's glue, put this down, and then I put like a light coat of Elmer's glue on top, and it seems to be holding really well, and it looks like it was meant to be there, which is good. And then of course, for the actual panel where you typically have buttons or joysticks or whatever you call it, I wanted again for it to have a House of the Dead aesthetic. Now of course, this is House of the Dead 3. This on here is House of the Dead 2. Originally, when I built my own light-up marquee for my original House of the Dead 2 setup, and there's a video on the channel that you can check that kind of shows that old setup. I bought this off of Etsy for like 20 bucks. I just cut this to fit, and it's also basically waterproof, so you can set drinks on or whatever when you're playing, which is cool. And of course, that basically just covers this. Now, the piece between this, it's a little hard to tell, but I had to cut to size a flat piece because the original Street Fighter 2, of course, had joysticks, buttons, and holes, and I didn't want that to feel wonky or weird when this was on top. So the backside of the Arcade 1UP machines have like a particle board wood, essentially. And so what I did was just cut that particle board wood on the backside that would be covering the back of the components of the arcade here, and just cut that to fit. And then I painted it like a matte gray just to kind of go with the aesthetic, but also to not look like it was overly standing out with all the bright white here. So I put that, drilled these through, and then I have my little panel here. Now, of course, this is just the kick plate on the Street Fighter machine flipped backwards. So again, this almost looks like a generic Arcade 1UP machine that they have or something that I've just basically added some House of the Dead aesthetics to. Now, if you're not used to modding these machines, and I'm definitely not, I ended up doing a lot of trial and error to get the HDMI to work, right? So this screen has to obviously run something. So this is running just a Wii, as you can tell with these guns right here. It's just running basically a Wii through HDMI going through this. And of course I try to kind of hide the bar a bit, but I have the sensor bar, basically 3M taped two-way up here. But anyways, I put the HDMI thing together. Took me a bit of a time to figure it out. Finally figured it out. It seems to actually look relatively crisp considering. Now, of course, the original Street Fighter 2 monitors were not great, but they're good enough for what I'm trying to do here, which is a no budget House of the Dead 2 machine. So essentially, yeah, this is basically just running a Wii, and the Wii has an HDMI converter itself going into this screen here. Now, I actually also have it set up that this part here pops right off, so the right here just slides right out, and you can get access to everything on the inside. So you have the Wii in here. I have some cheap Logitech speakers that I wasn't really using that are actually running all the sound. Of course, if you want to change it to game, it's basically can all be done through here, and then you can just pop this back on and use it for that. Now, 90% of what's played on this, or gonna be played on this, is all House of the Dead. So to me, it's one of the best arcade light gun games, and the whole goal here was to kind of make a House of the Dead machine. Now I have House of the Dead 2 and 3 Return, as they call it on the Wii. So that's kind of where I felt like the aesthetic matched, because it's House of the Dead 3, House of the Dead 2, kind of matches everything here. So yeah, this was kind of I had a bit of time off from work, and this was a machine that was basically kind of haphazardly used to run my PlayStation Classic. I didn't really like the way it looked or even functioned, I'll say. And this to me is getting a lot more use than that was getting, based purely off of what I did here. Now I know it doesn't look perfect, and some of it kind of looks even a little cheap, but hey, for a no budget machine, this I thought this worked out pretty decent. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments about this. And I know I've seen some of you guys use proper skins and graphics. I may end up applying some of them to the side here, but in the meantime, I'm just using this to play House of the Dead, and so far I'm really enjoying it. The kids are enjoying it, and it's a pretty decent little machine that I put together here. So let me know what you guys think.